So what does CLUB stand for? The C is concentrate on instructional techniques proven to make a difference. So what are the techniques that make a difference? And compare and contrast is one of those techniques. The L is learn new strategies collaboratively. Yes, you can learn it individually, but closing the knowing-doing gap is a collaborative effort. Now, the beauty of it is where are my kindergarten teachers? Just anybody with kindergarten, raise your hand. Every one of our kindergarten classrooms in all of our thoughtful schools has a similarities and difference table. Every morning, a teacher puts two things on that table, and the students begin to talk about how they're the same or different. Now, think about it. What does that mean for a high school science teacher when you're trying to get your students to understand the two types of respiration, cellular respiration and regular breathing respiration, and which kids totally confuse and don't have an understanding of? But it's working in kindergarten, it's working in first grade, it's working in second grade, it's working in third grade, it's working in fourth grade. You're building off each other's work, and the impact is unbelievably significant. So it's not just one teacher doing it. The thing is, use new strategies in the classroom. It means you got to take a risk. Learning by definition means not knowing. It means, as Riley said, getting better each day. What's the next thing we need to do? What do I need to do? I like to talk about kick it up a notch. How many people here have ever watched Emerald, the chef? He says, bam, kick it up a notch. I want my students to kick it up a notch. I want their work to look good and sound smart. The B is bring students' work back to the learning clubs. This is the biggest difference when learning clubs really work, is we want to collect work from students that are a result of compare and contrast, and we want to look at the effectiveness of that. To integrate a new strategy takes about 15 hours of time in a semester to really do it well. And so let me ask you how we use our time. Can we find 15 hours in our department meetings, in our school meetings at the end of the day? Do we have half days, days like this? But if you commit yourself to 15 hours to a research-based strategy and do those 4 phases of learn the strategy, compare what you already do. And when we say learn the strategy, it doesn't mean you're not already doing it. I know you're doing it. But we need to do more of it, and we need to do it in a way that supports the research. We need to do it well. Visit each other in the classroom, and this is where the administration is so key, is how do you provide opportunities and time that teachers can visit each other in the classroom. One of the things that administrators need to do is, I think I mentioned it briefly, a 5 by 10. A 5 by 10 is you visit 5 classrooms for 10 minutes, you commit yourself to 2 hours a week to go around and visit classrooms and see how the strategy is working. Have people invite you in. The best way to bring about a change and bring commitment to the change is to, as administrators, is to show your teachers what is close to your heart and what you're curious about. But you've got to build learning clubs. You've got to build a learning community. There's a gentleman by the name of Peter Senge. He wrote a book called The Fifth Discipline. And he was really a mathematician at MIT, and he was hired by Fortune 500 magazine to do a research study on Fortune 500 companies during the past century. And much to his surprise, his research demonstrated that over 70%, 70%, that's 7 out of 10, Fortune 500 companies during the past century did not last longer than 45 years. So here are these successful companies that die. Number one reason why they did not succeed is they weren't good learners. Learning means adapting. How many people would agree with me? The students today and the challenges we face are very different than you had 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And it's not that you're not working hard. But we know more than ever before. But we also know more about successful organizations, and they row as one. They're in the boat. And doesn't mean that we're automatons and you must do a 5-step lesson plan, because everybody plans different. We all have different styles. Just as, some people love Sudoku and other people wouldn't want to do it. We're all different, and Riley said that. But on the other hand, an organization that rows as one, that has a clear picture of where it's going, what it wants to accomplish, what they want to pay attention to. And there's really 3 things you want to pay attention to. One is high levels of learning for all, not for some. That model no longer exists. The bell-shaped curve is not what we're operating on. And that's a real ambitious objective, high levels of learning for all, regardless of your background, where you come from, how much access to background knowledge you have, the values of your parents. Those are all factors that I know affect the challenge, but it's high levels of learning for all. Woo! That's a real equity issue. Second thing is quality teaching in every classroom, because what teachers do make a difference. This is the most valuable resource this organization has, is sitting right there. You are your best consultants. There is so much knowledge and skill out here, we need to figure out how to access it. You need to distribute the learning. And the third goal is effective leadership, skillful leadership throughout the organization. And leadership is not just the leadership of a position. Leadership is all that everyone does to achieve the mission, to achieve the vision, and move towards our goals. And the most effective schools are developing teacher leadership. The last thing is self-assessment. Constant looking at yourself. How am I doing today? What do I need to do tomorrow? What do I need to do to get better? How many people here talk to themselves? Be honest. How many of you get back answers? Now here's the real tough question. How many of you get back answers from more than one voice? This fancy way of talking to yourself is metacognition. It's thinking about your thinking. And that's what self-assessment is about. You see, a lot of people say you learn from doing. It really isn't so, because if you do, guess what you get? Do. Oh, is that bad? And I know this from coaching and years of coaching. You have to do, but you have to look and examine what you've done in order to figure out what you need to learn from. So there's not only action, you need reflection. And let me tell you, reflection is a much more powerful tool than inspection. You're not going to inspect that everybody's doing it. Commitment needs to be inside. It's not about compliance.